Mr. Karim, what do you prefer? To have a common space, like the Duisburg Landscape Garden, or do you rather prefer a virgin green meadow?
Oh, I think it's a combination of both. I think it's the man-made and the natural where they come together. That juxtaposition is, I think, where you achieve a heightened awareness of both worlds, the constructed and the natural.
I bet you have to deal with lots of political decisions. Can you compare Germany or Europe to international standards regarding regulations that affects the design or even the construction of new projects?
You can't compare it. They're very, there are international standards, but I always say one cannot look at a project out of context. When somebody looks at a project made in Germany, one has to look at the available trades, the skill sets, and the sort of the quality control. It's very different than building in other places. So I think just the nature of the practice is very diverse, and one has to adapt to the context. One cannot have the same expectations or have the same design goals. So a detail that you might want to execute in a project that is going to be made in Germany may not be achievable in a project elsewhere. So I think one has to be quite cognizant of how to design to the context, technically.
Architecture and passion, this is the motto of this year's ArchitekTOUR. And how do these terms together function?
I think you have to have passion to be an architect. I don't think it's not as, one cannot separate the fact that it takes a kind of an obsessive nature to want to spend an indefinite amount of time into a practice that isn't really quantifiable. One could say you could build a building or design a building in a day, but it takes us months and years to do it. It's because you're looking for the intangibles in design, and so that requires passion. It's not a kind of calculation. It's not something that's quantifiable.
This convention has brought together architects as well as manufacturers, producers. What do you think of this kind of unique possibility?
I think it should always be that way, and I think most times you find yourself towards the latter stages of a design process where the industry starts to come into the process, and you wonder why the industry wasn't in the process earlier on, because you could actually design around or have the industry design for your project. I think there's the staggered nature of the two processes of working in kind of in a bubble of design versus working in the field of construction. That crossover, I think, is becoming more and more necessary. Because I think there's so many different products and so many different things that are evolving more rapidly that being in touch with the industry earlier is better.
What are your thoughts about that location? Are you as much impressed as I am?
About this location?
Yes.
Oh, it's fantastic. Yeah, it's really fantastic. And I think it's an example of when it used to be functioning as a steel mill or industry. I think one just understood it as a piece of machinery. Now that you're this sort of juxtaposition of this new use for something that wasn't designed for it, you're actually equally aware of its history, and somehow its history is ever more present. So it's not necessarily about trying to deny the history by putting something new into it. It enhances the character of what it used to be.
Thank you.